So I'm going to start sharing the screen. Today, Heather and I were discussing earlier this morning, we are on session 6. That puts us halfway through. Woo! Halfway through. Woo! Halfway through. So exciting. I don't know about y'all. I am excited we're halfway through. About being halfway through, we're on session 6. 12 sessions that have like chapters of the book to do with them. The last session is the 13th is all about setting up your accounts and stuff to be able to do the next step. Yes, halfway through. We have also a long, I consider it a long break, March. So we have like 2 Saturdays free in the middle of March, so that you can live your best life for those 2 Saturdays and frolic and whatever fun things you used to do on Saturdays before you did this fun thing on Saturdays. So I am going to pull up our PowerPoint for this morning, and we are going to discuss the chapter on communication today. And I cannot see anybody's face, so I need to view video panel, and I need to view the chat. So if anybody asks a question, I can respond to it. Excellent. All right. Lydia, can you see the screen, the PowerPoint screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so like I said, we're going over communication today. I will put to you that communication is one of the most important chapters for being a high quality teacher. So we did the health and safety, and according to that Maslow pyramid, health and safety are your most important. And that's not completely wrong. We need to have a healthy and safe classroom. And that's like baseline, right? But to be considered a quality, high quality teacher, even if your activities are not on point, if you can get your communication skills on point, it lifts your whole classroom. It lifts all the adults' perceptions of your classroom too. If you can really do high quality interactions with kids, people that are coming in and checking like, how good is this classroom? If they see really good, high quality, consistent interactions, they will bump you up like 10 points on everything just because of that. It's that important. So we're going to talk today a little bit about language and literacy development, about how we can judge language and literacy in our learning environment, how we can support oral language development, a little bit about reading development, a little bit about writing development. And the dual language is a thread through the whole course. You may ask yourself, my kids are not reading and writing. They're in a young toddler classroom. You're not wrong. But we're going to talk about what level of reading and what level of writing is appropriate in a young toddler or an infant classroom. So we will know and not pick activities that are better for 5-year-olds. We'll pick things that are appropriate for our age group. All right, I have what I think is an absolutely delightful video. It's from the Atlanta Speech School, and it gives you 2 scenarios. I'd like us to watch it together. And then we are going to discuss how the adults are communicating with children. If you need to take notes, if you need to like make a mental note, whatever it is, we're going to have a discussion after watching this video about how the adults at this school are communicating with children. All right, so let me pull it up. Almost 4 minutes, y'all. So take your notes of how the teachers and adults are communicating. Not just the teachers, all the adults.
Hey, Mr. Q.
Did you see that?
Why would somebody do that?
Please go into the classroom. No talking, quietly.
Hey, Miss Merida, how you doing?
We need you inside.
How do you think that makes us feel?
I forgot my number.
What's your name?
Jordan?
What's your last name?
Carter?
All right. Go ahead.
School is hard enough.
Come on in, sit down quietly at your desks, and begin writing.
This kind of stuff just makes it harder.
I said quietly, please. Who's talking? Is it you, Sophie? Don't let it be you.
Don't believe me?
Sophie.
Please just watch.
I'm not up here for me, I'm up here for you. Pay attention, okay? Now somebody answer me. Somebody needs to answer me really fast.
Every time we're ignored or yelled at or silenced, a teacher takes away what's possible.
No horseplay, no running, and especially no talking.
Moment by moment.
Miss Garrity, your student's behavior yesterday in the lunchroom, it was terrible. Next time, silent lunch.
Did you hear that? Stay in line and catch a bubble. I'm not playing.
If this is education, we're in trouble.
Bye, Miss McGarrity.
Frederick Douglass said, once you learn to read, you'll be forever free. The way it is now, 2 of the 3 of us will never be able to really read. It doesn't have to be this way.
Hey, Jordan. How you doing? Good.
Everyone we meet throughout our day can make a difference.
I've been waiting for you to arrive.
All the difference.
Good, how are you?
Great.
Hi, Jordan. Bye, Jason.
Good morning, Jordan.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Good.
Go ahead and put your number in.
Talk with
I
us,
don't know my number.
not at us.
That's okay. I'll look it up for you. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Okay.
All right. Have a
Teach us what we need to know.
Good morning.
That's how we get smarter.
Well, good morning, Sophie, Janicia, and Jordan.
And when you talk with us and teach us, give us bigger and bigger words.
Now what I'd like you to do, children, is turn around and converse with your neighbor and discuss where the mother might have gone.
Words that we can use to read and understand,
She is prey for eagles, so she hunts at night.
and that will take us places we could never reach without you.
Remember, we're entering the learning zone. Now, how can we show our respect to the children and teachers who are working?
We can walk quietly.
Yes. Okay, kids, so what I'd like you to do is continue writing your narrative, documenting your emotions if you were the baby owl and your mother abandoned you in the nest.
What can you do? Learn all that you can so that you can challenge us to be our best.
You would have stayed and assisted them in whatever they needed.
Share yourself with us and show us how to share ourselves with others. Give us courage. Give us compassion. Help us find our own voices so we can become who we are meant to be.
Why would you want to silence us?
Oh my goodness, the first half of that was so sad.
It was.
Have like a tear, right? You're like, oh, baby, why are they doing that to the baby? All right, so let's discuss it. What ways was Jordan in particular being communicated to at the beginning? How were they communicating?
He was.
They weren't.
They were. They were sharing a lot of information with Jordan. What was he learning that first one? Based on what they were
To
doing.
be ignored and silenced.
Being ignored. When you're ignored, how were they communicating that they were ignoring him?
By not answering his questions when he would greet them and they wouldn't greet him back.
Okay, so they just wouldn't respond at all. Delexis said they were being very dismissive. How were they being dismissive? Were they doing it using their voice or some other way to communicate?
Hand gestures.
Body language.
Did anybody notice the eye roll?
Yes, that made me so mad.
Anything else that shared how the adults were feeling towards that child in the first one?
It felt to me it was like if the child's ruining like their day, like you know how when like I don't know how to explain it, like oh I have to be here because I'm teaching you, not me. Like you know, it's like that's not how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be there for them to. Sorry.
It's okay. So that's a really good point, Lydia. The teachers and all the grownups were acting like they didn't want to be there, right? It's like, I am here for the paycheck. Thank you very much. I am not here for you, kiddo. I'm standing in this line. I'm standing in front of the class. Even though that one teacher said, I'm not here for me. I'm here for you. Now, shut up.
Yeah, she said that's so condescending. Like, that was horrible.
Was Jordan and the other children at that school given much practice in having conversations?
No, communication was horrible.
So they could hear the teachers talking, but they didn't have a practice. They didn't have the frequent ability to practice. If you notice, the teacher that was in front of the classroom sitting down was pretty much telling the children, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. Okay, answer me real quick. Somebody, real quick, real quick. Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. Real quick, answer me. I'm not going to ask if you've ever done it because we're recording this, right? So just considering over the years, if you're a toddler teacher, right? Or you've been in a classroom where you would have questions you're asking the children in a large group format like that. Have you ever noticed you do something like that where you're like, okay, everybody be quiet. Everybody quiet, quiet, quiet. Okay, now I have a question for you. Answer me really fast. And then you have the answer waiting here in your brain. You're waiting for somebody to say, you ask maybe, what shape? You have an answer waiting in your brain, right? When you ask what shape? You're waiting for them to say rectangle, right? You're waiting. If they say anything other than rectangle, you can be either dismissive. Nope, it's not a rectangle. Who else? What? It's not a circle. Who else? What shape? What shape? That doesn't get the kids really thinking complex thoughts, deeper thoughts. It doesn't get the kids thinking about those social skills for how do I respond correctly to somebody. Instead, you're just waiting for one word. That's all you want from them. One word. I don't want to hear about what your dog did last night. I want the one word. So when you do that, you are stifling opportunities for conversation. Did anybody notice how the teachers non-verbally, so non-verbally means without talking, how the teachers non-verbally were communicating their feelings about being there? We mentioned the eye roll. Did you notice the principal? What did she do differently in the first and second?
In the first part, she was just rushing them in the building, not even like engaging with them. And then the second part, she was actually greeting them, saying, how are you doing? And like excited that they're actually there with her.
And she gave a hug. She offered hugs too, to be able to get that connection formed with a child, right? Offering physical affection is a way to form a connection with a little person. You could argue it's a way to form a connection with a bigger person too. But the hugs, the getting down on the child's level to talk to them. The lunch lady was a little over the top when she went with the sweetness at the end. But hey, go for it. If you have to go over the top with something, sweetness is better than bitterness, right? Also, has anybody ever heard that term catch a bubble?
Yes, we use it at our daycare.
How do you feel about it after watching that video?
Well, we don't use it in that behavior tone. We kind of just use it like as a playing thing, like let's catch a bubble, and then they'll blow up their their bubble, and it's like hold your bubble, and then I'm like okay, pop it, and then we can start doing it. So it's not that way, but we kind of do it in a fun way.
Okay. Be aware of the times, especially in our age group, there really shouldn't be an expectation for a group of toddlers to be silent. I mean, you shoot for it for nap time. That's a goal for nap time. But aside from that, I don't really, can anybody tell me a time of day you would need them to be silent aside from nap time?
When the teacher is like explaining an activity to them.
Okay. Okay, I could see that. Okay. Just be really sparing with using it. Use it for when you really, really, really need to use it, and don't just willy-nilly pull it out and say, you know what, it would be nice if my class was silent right now, just because I don't want to deal with them. They're toddlers. You're there, you have to deal with them. All right, so let's carry on. And if anybody wants to share that video with a director for like a training or something like that, it is, I don't know if you can see the screen right now where it says Atlanta Speech School at the bottom here. And the title of the video is Every Opportunity. Atlanta Speech School, Every Opportunity. All right, let me move this over here. And pull up where I can see your faces and where I can see the chat. All right, great. Let's move on. So we just had the conversation about how we communicate. We communicate verbally by telling children things. We communicate non-verbally by, if you roll your eyes, that's communicating something to children. If you do the talk to the hand or like this, that's communicating to the children. If you give them a hug, that communicates to children. Your facial expressions behind your mask communicate to children, though not as clearly because they can't see. But all right. These are not bad terms for you to know, but I don't think they're going to come up specifically on the exam. You don't necessarily need to know the vocabulary word that goes with each of these, but understanding the concepts is good. So the first vocabulary word is receptive language, receptive. Receptive means the language that is coming towards you and you're receiving it, receptive. So listening and making sense of spoken words. Expressive is when you are sharing the words, when you're speaking, sharing your ideas, thoughts, and feelings. That's expressive. We use the term expressing yourself quite a bit, so that should be an easy one to remember. Expressive is when you are expressing yourself, you're sharing. Receptive is when you're receiving. Why do we need to know this? Because receptive comes first in human development. Can anybody off the top of your head think of one of your children that understands what you say but can't talk back to you yet?
I have that quite a bit in my classroom because I have the younger infants.
Mm-hmm.
So there are the ones that are maybe around like 5 or 6 months old, that I will ask them, no, please. And they'll look at me and they'll stop. And then I'll say, thank you for listening. I'm so proud of you. You're such a big girl or big boy. And they get a smile on their face and they grin. So they can't verbally respond, but they know the positive reenaction, like they can get that vibe.
Cool. Thank you, Heather. Does anybody work with children that have come into your classroom that don't speak the same language you do? Has anybody ever had a child come in that didn't speak your language?
Yes, I actually have two. And I will communicate with them through English. And they're starting to pick up on what I'm saying, but they just kind of communicate back through body language, I guess.
So they're still on receptive, right?
Yes.
So thank you, Delexis. So it matters for dual language learners because maybe in their home language, so let's say they speak Arabic at home, or their family speaks Arabic at home. I bet that they can speak Arabic with their family. When they come to school, they haven't had any practice with the English yet. And so it's almost going back to being a younger child in that I have no idea what's going on around me. Nobody's using the words that I know. And so they're very watchful. They stay at the outer edges of things to begin with. And they're focusing really hard in trying to pick up some of those high use words. And they usually understand through either nonverbal or verbal before they can communicate back with you. All right. Learning about writing. So young children pass through stages as they learn how to write. And eventually, with enough support, they are able to write something that is readable. However, we've all, I'm sure, been to various health professionals' offices where you still couldn't read their writing. But in general, most people learn a conventional form of writing with practice and instruction. The earliest stage of writing is random scribbling, early scribbling. So this is, you could hand a chunky crayon to an infant, and odds are they'd be able to grab a hold of it with their full hand. And due to their fine motor control and gross motor, they'd probably be using their whole arm, going back and forth, up and down. They might not even be trying to use the crayon as a tool yet. They might just be waving their arm around and accidentally making some marks. After they start noticing, hey, I'm making marks on the paper, then they get more intentional with it. And as they develop their fine and gross motor skills, they move into controlled scribbling. They realize, hey, I'm making marks. Mark making is cool. Let's try to make the marks deliberately. Let's try to, I see I have a blank spot in my page there. Let's move my hand over to the blank spot and make some marks. Controlled scribbling is more confident, and scribbling has more meaning for the child because they're making decisions about where to put the marks. Fine motor skills and hand-eye coordination have improved. And at this stage, the child is making some decisions before making the marks. So in my example, they see the blank spot on the page and they make a conscious choice to, hey, I'm going to move my hand over to that blank spot and make some marks. Scribbling, you can use different techniques, colors, strategies. You can use markers, you can use pencils. If you had a tray of pudding that the kid dumped over, they could scribble in that. I mean, whatever you can make marks in counts. The next one is basic forms. The child doesn't plan the drawing, So some of you in the older toddler classroom will have basic forms happen. And they don't plan the drawing ahead of time. However, they can make connected loops now. It's not all about the back and forth and angular drawing. They can start making kind of circle-ish shapes and making, you know, trying to give some detail to those circle-y shapes. Also, another part of basic forms is, has anybody ever asked a child, oh, tell me about your drawing? Has anybody ever tried that with somebody that could talk back to you?
I have with my toddler class. I
do
try to
they-
understand them, and it's like kind of hard.
Like, blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 mommy, daddy. Okay, great. Okay, I'm hearing mommy and daddy are in here. So a hallmark of basic forms is they make some sort of drawing intentionally, but they don't have a plan ahead of time. So after they're done with it, they kind of look at it. And if somebody asks them, what did you draw? They're like, didn't make a plan for that. Let me look. What did I draw? I drew mommy, daddy. Oh, good to know. And then you'd usually go and write somewhere like on the back of the paper, mommy, daddy. So that is, if you've ever noticed that phenomena happening, that's what it is. They didn't make a plan for their drawing, but if you're going to ask them, you know, tell me about your drawing, they're going to come up with some sort of description of what happened. And it's always better to ask them, tell me about it. Tell me about your drawing, instead of, oh, I see you drew a rainbow, because they didn't make a plan, right? So rainbow might not be anywhere in this brain. You're just looking at what they drew and interpreted it yourself. And it'd be better if you asked them to tell you about it. And if they can't tell you about it, you can start describing the drawing. You can say, oh, I see you made a circle here with the red crayon, and I see you made some strong lines with the black crayon on this side of the paper. So you can just describe it. And then the last stage for us is pictorial. You are normally not going to have your 2-year-olds in this. You might get some in your 3-year-old class though. So if you have like a mixed age class, or you're on the upper end and you have some 3s, this is, they can start making a plan before they do the drawing. They can plan how to do their shapes. And this is the point where you have a good shot of understanding what that picture is about on your own, just by looking at it. They understand print concepts. So a print concept could be that in English, we write from left to right. So when they make their scribbles that look like letters, they would do it from left to right, the same as they would see in a book. And they may know a couple letters and know how to spell them. Usually the first letters they learn are the ones having to do with their name, because their name is very important to them. So for me, my name being Lillian or Lily, odds are I would have probably been able to write an L first, because my name would have been very important to me. Here are another kind of breakdown of writing. It talks, and this is from the National Association from the Education of Young Children, so NAEYC. And you can see the progression from a scribble to symbolic. So they tried to use pictures to help make their writing understandable. Directional scribbling is, I know we start on the left side of the page and end up on the right, so. And then symbolic and mock letters are when you've been around text writing enough that you understand what the shapes kind of look like, and you can start pretending to write them. Anybody have a question on any of this? You can put it in the chat or just shout out if you do. Okay. Did my wait time, my 5-second wait time. Carrying on. All right. Reading has two processes. You don't need to know the first definition. You do need to know the second definition. The first definition is decoding. You, as an infant toddler teacher, don't really need to know what decoding is, but decoding is kind of when you see the words in front of you, you know what sounds the letters make. And that's when you're like sounding it out and figuring out what is the meaning of this stuff that's written down. That's decoding. It's like thinking about if it was a puzzle, right? Because as you're learning to read, these are kind of puzzle-like, these weird shapes in front of you that are writing. And decoding is figuring out what they mean. What are all these shapes and symbols? What do they mean to make speech? Language comprehension is another part of it. So I don't know about y'all. I can give a personal example here. I have gone to school for a long time. And in my last years of school, I had one of my professors hand me like a 1.5-page article to read in class. I started reading it. I got to the end of the paragraph, the first paragraph. I stopped and I thought, what did I just read? Who am I? Where am I? What did I just read? I know I was able to read all of those words. I don't understand it. Has anybody ever had an experience like that where you're able to read something and you get to the end and you're like, wait, what? Huh?
More times than I'd like to admit.
Yeah, same here.
Very humbling because I understood all of the words, right? I was able to decode, right? I was able to decode. I could have read it out loud and sounded like I knew what I was talking about. But if somebody asked me to explain what that person just said, nope, no idea. This might happen to you if you are somebody that likes to read the instructions or technical manuals for things. Like you get a new phone or a new toy and you like, oh, I'd like to learn how to do this. And you're an actual manual reader that opens it up and says, oh, I need to, okay. Yeah, I don't understand what that person just said. So you have to have both sides, right? You can't just be able to read it off. You have to be able to understand. Without understanding, without comprehending, it means nothing. But on the other side, if you're not able to even read it off, you can't get to that comprehending part. Does that make sense? So you need both of them in order to understand. Now, as an infant toddler teacher, you are not teaching your kids how to decode formally. You're not sitting them down and saying, okay, let's read this book. And it starts with the letter A, let's sound it out. It's too early for them. You're just gonna put them off reading altogether. They're gonna be like, reading's torture. Nope, not doing it. You can focus, however, on language comprehension. So as you're reading stories with the kids, talk about how you're understanding what's going on in the story. You can look at the pictures to help you interpret it, right? Has anybody ever done that in a picture book? You like read something in the picture book with the kids and say, wow, how is he feeling? And let's look at the picture. What kind of expression does he have on his face? What is he doing? Have you all ever tried that? Yeah?
Yeah.
So that's really helpful for children to understand how you as an adult can make sense of these things, and it's giving them tools to understand how to make sense of it. You can also try using bigger words for things. Remember in that video that teacher pulling out all those big words to talk about owls towards the end, you're like, okay, All right, you know some big words. But using them as a teaching tool, not just using them to make yourself look fancy, but explaining what the words mean. So let's say you use the word comprehension in class, which I'm sure that could happen. If you use the word comprehend, then you'd stop after you use the word and say, oh, comprehend means understanding, knowing what I'm talking about. And then you could carry on talking. So giving kids those explanations of what these big words mean while you're using them, very helpful. Yeah. So there you go. Let's move on to the next one. Phonological awareness. This is one that is in our wheelhouse. Awesome. There are, okay, let's talk about phonological awareness. What is it? It is one, phonemic awareness is one kind of it. Phonemic awareness is understanding that sounds make up words and words can be broken up. Can anybody think of a song that mixes up words and plays with rhymes? Anybody?
The apples and bananas songs.
Yeah. Would you care to sing a bar for us or no?
I don't have the best singing voice, but I do have a monkey that'll sing it for you.
I'm intrigued. Are we going to ask Heather to get the monkey out?
Encore.
All right, bring out the monkey, Heather. Let's hear it. I'm intrigued. A monkey that sings apples and bananas.
Let's sing a song. It's called Apples and Bananas.
And it talks.
I like to eat apples and bananas. 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 I like to eat.
I think that might be my upper level of taking that song this morning. Thank you, Heather. Okay, so that one was a phonemic awareness, phonological awareness kind of song because it messed with the vowel, right? I like to eat apples and bananas. I like to eat apples and bananas. I like to oat ooples and banunus. I'm not going to make you sing it if you don't want to. Does anybody else know a song? Because I know if I make you sing it, you're not going to tell me. Does anybody else know a song that messes with the sounds in words?
Would Baba Black Sheep be one? Because it's messing with the sound of the sheep.
Where's my phone? Messes with the sound of the sheep. I don't know that version of it. I'm not saying it doesn't. Does anybody? Thank you, Lydia. Does anybody else have a suggestion for one?
I have one more. Or Old MacDonald Had a Farm. That one goes with the noises of the animals.
I think on Old MacDonald, it's making the noises. E-I-E-I-O, and on this farm he had a E-I-E-I-O, quack, quack here, quack, 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 there, quack, there. I don't think it has the rhyming in it. I'm trying to sing it to myself, and I don't think it has a lot of rhyming in it. It is a good song for making sounds. Totally, I totally agree with that. But it doesn't have a lot of rhyming. Can anybody think of a rhyming one? Rhyming is like the. Let me give you an example. Down by the Bay. Has anybody ever heard that song? down by the bay where the watermelons grow. Back to my home I dare not go, for if I do, my mother will say, have you ever seen a whale? And then you let the kids help you find something that rhymes with whale. Can anybody give me an example for something that rhymes with whale?
In the song it says polka dot tail. So
okay, with a polka dot tail, down by the bay, blah, blah, blah. Have you ever seen a?
Well, I think I got one.
Dancing a jig down by the bay. So it's coming up with rhyming words. Lydia, you were saying something, I cut you off. What was it?
No, sorry, I apologize. I cut you off. This old man. Could that one kind of be right?
It's like knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone.
Yeah, this old man came rolling home.
Yeah, that has a lot of rhyming in it. There's also Willoughby Wallaby Woo. Have you all heard that one?
That's a tongue twister. That is a tongue twister.
So for Willoughby Wallaby Woo, for those of you who haven't heard it, Willoughby Wallaby Woo, an elephant sat on you. Willoughby Wallaby Wee, an elephant sat on me. Willoughby Wallaby Whittia, an elephant sat on Lydia. Willoughby Wallaby Walexis, an elephant sat on Delexis. Willoughby Wallaby Wayla, an elephant sat on Layla. Willoughby Wallaby Weather, an elephant sat on Heather. Do you see how you're pulling in the kids, but it's not, you're making up a rhyme because you're just adding W to the front of the first word. That's a good one for phonological awareness. Is there another one? Oh, there was a song like in the 50s or 60s, Bananarama, something like that, the name game, they called it. Okay, anyway, it was a thing. It was in the 50s or 60s, and it used the person's name and you messed with the sounds in it.
I know what you're talking about. There's like this clip on American Horror Story that plays that song.
Okay, very cool. So
is it like the name song where it goes like Amy, Bo, Baby, banana,
yes.
Yeah.
Yep. But can you see how it's messing with sounds? So the more opportunities you give the kids to mess with sounds and hear those rhyming words, the better it helps develop their writing ability, honestly, reading and writing ability going forward. You wouldn't think so, but understanding the sound words make is the first step before you can start writing those words or reading them. Sounds and rhythms of speech. So, a minute I have. Kids also need to know that sounds make up words. Words can be broken up into sounds. So you could do clapping for syllables as well. So, I don't know if y'all remember syllables, but like my name is Lillian. That's 3 syllables. Lillian. Layla. Layla. Delexis. Delexis. And that's a good game to do that helps them break up words. When you learn how to manipulate and break up words, it helps you a lot when it's finally time for you to start writing and reading. The more kind of stuff you can do like that, that's fun. And when I say fun, I don't mean holding up a flashcard that has the letter A on it and saying, A, say A, A. B, say B, B. No, that's not fun. No bueno. So using their names, kids love their names. It's all about them. They love that. So the more you can use their names for things, the better. Usually when children start to write, they're going to start with the sounds they can easily hear. and differentiate. So it almost looks like texting language when they start writing. So if you wanted a child to write truck for you at the beginning of their writing path, they might go TRK, truck, truck, truck. And those are the sounds they can hear. So that kind of thing. Cat in the Hat, Dr. Seuss rhymed the heck out of his books. So those are really nice ones. Rhyming is good. A lot of nursery rhymes as well have rhymes built into them. So there is a significant relationship between children's knowledge of phonological awareness and their later success in reading and writing. So the more that you can find games and songs that mess with sounds, the better off you are. And if you can tie in the kid's name, even better. Okay, I see Liz put the Bumblebee song down. That does have some good rhyming in it. All right, phonological awareness. We talked about rhyming. Here's one for an older child. I wouldn't suggest this for your twos. Nope, I don't think they're there yet. But what you could do with your twos, instead of doing the kind of activity you see here where the child's matching letters to ending sounds, you could do it orally with them. You could say at. What would I have if I put k, at together? What would I make if I put k, at together? K, at, cat. We made cat. What can we do if we put at together? At, mat. And that's something you can even do when you're like waiting in line for the water fountain or something like that. You know, you got this group of fidgety kids there, you could do stuff like that. At, sat. Putting it together. Coming up with alliteration. So words that begin with the same sound. So for example, rain, breakfast, braid, bread. So it's not only the ending sound that you can mess with, but the beginning sound. We talked about segmenting for children's names for syllables. So we talked about like Lizabeth, and that'd be 3 syllables. You could also segment a sentence. So let's say you're reading a book with kids and it's a really short, I wouldn't do this with a long book, okay? Muy chiquito, very small book. A book that has maybe 1 phrase or 1 sentence per page, short book. Maybe a few pages long at the most. You could do sentence segmenting with your older twos. I wouldn't bother with anybody younger than that. And for sentence segmenting, you can do it with the clapping, or you could, let me see, my arm's too long to stay on here. I'm gonna go sideways. All right. Can somebody give me a very short sentence, please?
We play ball together.
Thank you. So our look, we've read the book. We play ball together. Let's segment that. Let's get our chopping board out and let's cut up that sentence. We play ball together. Let's do it again. We play ball together. Or you could do clapping. We play ball together. So do you see how that's different from doing the syllables? Because if you did syllables for that, that's hardcore, right? So instead, just knowing, so why would children need to understand how many how to cut up a sentence. Why would that be a skill that you think would matter?
Would it be to take time to talk? Because I know someone like one of my 2-year-olds, she just goes like really, really fast. And I'm like, slow down. And then I'll ask her, what is it that you want? And she'll say it fast. And then there's like another student that will be saying it slower. So could that be one of the reasons why to break up?
That makes sense. So slowing it down and making them take the time to understand what was said. Sure, that would work. Another thing about it is for somebody that's just learning English, understanding that there are things called words and they're their own little things. So each thing is separate. Like we play ball together. That's not all one thing. That's made up of 4 things. So understanding those spaces and that words are a thing is also important for beginning to understand reading and writing and that kind of thing. All right. Feel free to pop in with questions at any time or wonderings, if you will. It is 10 o'clock. Y'all have stuck with me for an hour. I see Liz is having some technological issues. Let's take 10 minutes. Everybody can recaffeinate, go potty, process phonological awareness a little bit. And let's come back. Let's see, 10 minutes from now, 9:56, what would that be? 10:06? Is that accurate? As you can tell, math is not my strong suit. All right, 10:06, let's come back, take your caffeine break. I'm gonna pause the recording, I think. All right, super. So just to help you get back into it, rhyming are words that end with the same sound. So when we were talking about down by the bay, whale, tail, sail, mail, hail, rail. I might be tapped out there. All those are rhyming words. Alliteration, words that start with the same sound. So we gave the example of braid, brain, breakfast, Brad, break. Sentence segmenting, we talked about like using the cutting board method for it, or you could clap it out. Syllable segmenting, again, you could clap it out, or you could, get some rhythm sticks, or you could pull out your drums. Lily, Juliet, Jasmine. Good times. All right. Next one, alphabet knowledge. All righty. Alphabet is the ability to name letters and know the sounds that go with them. If you're in an infant room, it is ridiculous to expect that your children are able to name letters and the sounds that go with them. Not a good developmental expectation. It involves the ability to recognize letters, so being able to see the differences between letters, to be able to hear the sounds that go with the letters. It's important before you learn how to read to know these things because it helps with decoding. Children, as they learn how to write, learn that there are specific ways to write each letter. Like, the letter B, depending on how you turn it, can be a D, can be a P. And there are other letters like that. It matters how you turn them and how you write them. The sequencing of letters is important because the sounds go in a line. You can't just mix up the sounds and expect to understand what you're saying. They need to know words are made with letters, to know that words have a consistent meaning. So that's important because if the children learn the vocabulary word of diaper, diaper means the same thing every day, diaper. If your teacher's talking about a kitty cat they see outside, that's the same concept every day, kitty cat. If the teacher's writing something down and they're using a pen, pen today is a pen tomorrow. Also, things to know that apply to your mathematics from the last chapter are words, vocabulary such as placement vocabulary, up, down, over, under, in front, behind. They're not going to learn left and right yet. Those are really hard. I don't know if you all remember in elementary school trying to remember that for yourself. Christina, stay on at the end so that I can add you to the attendance, please. Don't give up. Stay till the end and remind me, okay? Julie, for you, I don't think you were here when I was calling out roll. All right.
I was here. It's just it wouldn't let me unmute it for some reason or type. So then I kept trying to unmute it, and then it said hanging up, and then it like closed the window, and I was like, oh no, and I had to go back and open it again.
Okay. Try to stay until the end so I can pull back up that file and put you in, please.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you. Another thing to do to help children understand this thing of writing and how it works is for you to do it, right? So you write during the day already, don't you? What are some times during the day that you write where the children can see you in any classroom?
At your prep area.
Okay. What things might you be writing, Heather?
We have our accountability log, or in the infant room, we keep track of what time we feed, how much we feed, what time we change diapers, if it was wet, if it was poop, what time.
Lots of information documented for babies' bodily functions. One way, and I don't know if this would work at your center or not, but just throwing it out there, one way that you can do that to make it more visible to babies is putting it like on a whiteboard as well. So some centers do this where, you have to document it on paper for the families every day. But it's also nice to have it like on a whiteboard or a chalkboard where the children can see that you're writing information down.
We have a dry erase board where we keep track of diaper changes.
Mm-hmm.
So the child's
name,
when,
right?
Yeah, so the child's name gets wrote down, and then we have different colors that we put for like the different hours. Mm-hmm. So when we write at 1 o'clock, they'll all be in like orange, and 2 o'clocks will all be in purple. So we can keep track, and we can just look at it and know, okay, these are all due this hour. Yes. Mm-hmm. Because they're never on the same schedule.
Yes, this is correct. When you got to go, you got to go. So that's one example of writing for children to see it. It's not necessarily for the children. I mean, they're doing it so all the grownups in the room can see, oh, it's been a minute. We need to change these kids. But just the children seeing that writing's important and something you do every day and it has a purpose is good. Can anybody in a toddler classroom give me an example of when your toddlers see you writing during the day?
When we do our breakfast, we have to circle them that they're here and that they got served. But also during our activity, like arts and crafts activity, sometimes they'll see us write with them, or we'll draw with them, so they kind of interact with that. Or like during potty times too, like I'm starting this chart board because we're starting to potty train people, one of the kids, and for every time they go potty, I give them a star, and I'm trying to do that with every single one of them. So
Okay.
maybe I know it's not writing, but it's kind of like a.
It's documenting, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Lydia. I'm trying to think of what other times they might see you writing. I liked your example of you sitting down with them during art and you're making marks on the paper too. Another way they may see writing during the day is if you write their names on what they create. That's a way that they might see writing during the day. Okay. What you should not, did you have something else, Lydia?
Oh no, sorry. I don't know what I clicked. Sorry.
It's exciting at your house this morning. Sounds exciting. One thing that you should not do that kind of is counterproductive is, again, going back to the flashcards, where you can say, oh, I'm teaching alphabet knowledge for this 15 minutes. I got my flashcards. Everybody sit down. This is the letter A. Everybody say A. A for apple. Here's the letter B. Everybody say B. B for boy. Here's the letter C. That's not fun. I can't imagine even you're enjoying that. There's no way your toddlers are digging that. Try to find ways to make it just something that you mention and talk about during the day, same as you would anything else. So like we talked about how you would mention for your classroom rules, right? How you'd mention them during the day. Oh, remember, we're using walking feet in the classroom when we make a change. Maybe when you're reading a book, you could say, oh, it says carry. It says carry. I can hear the sound at the beginning of carry. Look, there's a big letter C. Colin, you have the letter C in your name too. C here, and Colin is C. And you know, you're not making a big to-do, you're not going over all the kids' names, but just sprinkling it in as if it's a part of your everyday experience is better than sitting them down and doing the flip cards, especially at your age level. All right, language and emergent literacy. This is the same as we talked about in the physical chapter. Depending on what children are exposed to at home and at school, that will influence how quickly they learn different literacy and listening and speaking skills. For example, let's look at that video mentally again and pretend that was two different schools. The first school we'll call the bad school, and the second school we'll call the good school. Now, children at that bad school are not learning as much expressive language. They're not practicing talking. In the second school, they are practicing expressive language. That to me means that that good school, the kids are going to learn expressive language better and faster because they're practicing it. Does that make sense? You practice it, you get better at it. If it's valued, it is learned better, faster, stronger. But it needs to stay developmentally appropriate. That's why we're going back to the goals. You can set a goal for a 2-year-old to be able to write all their letters and to spell some words. That could be a goal, but it's not developmentally appropriate. And you could maybe, with a lot of training, force that kid to memorize all that stuff and perform for you, but it's not developmentally appropriate. They're not getting out of it what they should get out of it. And it could cause harm because you're forcing them into doing something that's not really appropriate for their age group. So it's taking a lot more memorization and sitting down and forcing the information in instead of playing and developing the other skills that need to be developed at that level. That's why the goals are so important, because you can, I don't like using the word train, but we're going to use it for here. You can train a child to do just about anything if you support them properly. Anything can be trained. As a teacher, you have to understand what is developmentally appropriate and to make good choices that you are supporting them in growing in a healthy, emotionally and physical way. Has anybody ever seen on TV, and I'm going to say TV, YouTube, the web, has anybody ever seen a child do something that you thought was extraordinary and way above what a child should be able to do? Oh, Myra, you're here too. Brilliant. Stay on at the end so we can get you counted in attendance as well. Can you give me an example, Myra, of what you saw that the child was acting or able to do something that was way beyond what you would expect a child to be able to do?
Like playing a piano at a very early, like 3-4 years old. I've seen that.
Okay. And unless the child is like, I don't exactly know how a prodigy would work in that kind of thing. I'm gonna give the benefit of the doubt that there's like some child that is just a prodigy at something and can just walk up to it and do it. But aside from that, normally if you're teaching a child to play an instrument, it takes a lot of work, a lot of practice, a lot of hours into it. And some instruments need a lot of fine motor control, need a lot of gross motor control, depending on how big the instrument is. And the adult responsible for that child's well-being needs to make, I think, an informed decision about all the different levels of development that should be happening at that age level, and making sure that all those things are still being hit while you're focusing down on the child spending 5 hours a day playing the instrument. Are they still developing their social skills? Are they still developing their physical skills? So if you're having them sit down for 5 hours every day, are they still developing those core balance, large motor development, running, playing outside? Is that still happening for them? Are they still getting their phonemic awareness development while they're sitting down doing that? So as a teacher, you need to be aware of those developmental stages and make sure that if something starts getting focused on in your classroom, that it's developmentally appropriate, that you're not giving up things that are necessary in order to make a child able to do something exceptional. You don't want to drop all these necessary social emotional things in order to make them exceptional at something. Does that make sense? Because if you drop the social emotional, think about how that kid's going to grow up. Are they going to have those social skills? Are they going to have friends? That's really important for a human, right? Are they going to know how to interact with people? Are they going to enjoy their life? Also, you've got me on a tangent now. I'm going with it. I apologize. There was back in the day, and I'm not going to use the kid's name because this is going on YouTube. Heaven knows what that would do to me. But there was a child back in the day, I think he was like 5, 6, 7, that the parent took them for strength training every day and spent hours and hours and hours on strength training with this kid. Okay. There are actual physical things that were stunted for this child because of that intense strength training. The kid looked like a bodybuilder, but what things were being missed out on and how, because that was happening during a time period where a lot of growth and development physically happens, was that stunting things? Was the child perhaps shorter than they would have been without doing that? Did the child have repetitive motion like arthritis developed early because of that? So even though we say that you can train a child to do anything, you need to be really thoughtful and purposeful on what you focus on. That's it. Just be really thoughtful and purposeful how you focus. And read children's cues. If a child is done with something, you will know due to their cues. They'll start throwing stuff onto the floor. They might throw themselves onto the floor. They might start looking away from you and taking away that contact because they're overstimulated. They might get up and try to leave. You know, it's like, no, I'm not talking with you anymore. Bye-bye. I'm going to go over here. And you need to take those cues and understand, okay, the kid is not enjoying this. If I want them to learn, I need to find a playful way to make this exciting and fun for them to learn it. If you want to shout out and add anything, feel free to put it in the chat. Feel free to just call it out. But in general, the more a child is exposed to something, the more it is valued, the better they will learn it. And you have to be very thoughtful about what you are holding up and valuing in your classroom. If you're holding up and valuing letter identification in your classroom, and that's not a developmental skill for your age level, you're missing stuff that is a developmental skill. You can't jump ahead and not teach this stuff and expect them to understand. They need the foundation before you build the tower on top of it. Because if you build the tower without the foundation, what's going to happen to the tower? Okay. So to show that you value language in your classroom, you can label things. That's a good way to show you value it. That's a way to show it without you having to speak at all. Am I telling you not to speak at all? No. But this is a way to add to it, to make it better. So by labeling things, you are showing that these things, these symbols, this text that you're putting on something has a meaning. And understanding that all these weird little symbols have meaning is important. So you can't just read all of your picture books like this. Airplanes are flying by, engines buzz and hum along, way up in the sky, higher, higher with puffy clouds around them. Lower, slower, lower, slower as they touch the ground. If you read like this all the time, what do the children think you are how do the children think you're coming up with these words? Just throw it out there. How do you think the children believe you're coming up with these words if you read like this? What do you think?
That you're making up the words?
Could be, right? It's like, wow, my teacher is creative. She is the word master. She is the storyteller extraordinaire. She's just pulling those out of her head. Okay. What is a way that I could read this where the children would understand that I am actually looking at something and sharing what I'm looking at?
You use your finger to point at the words as you're saying them.
So I could go, airplanes are all flying by, engines buzz and hum along, way up in the sky. So when they see you doing that, they're like, oh, those wiggles down there must have some sort of purpose because she's pointing at them. And when even in a young toddler classroom, when they go to read the books to each other, if you're somebody that has done this for them, they'll notice it. And when they go to read it, when they go to read it back to themselves, some of them, not all of them, but some of them will put their finger and just randomly start moving their finger around here because they're like, this has some sort of connection to what I'm saying right now. I don't know what that connection is, but it has something to do with it. And that's a first step. That's important to know, that these words have a meaning. So that's one thing you can do. Do you have to do it every single time? No. Sometimes you might want to focus up here more because pictures also have meaning, don't they? So when you label things in your classroom, you're not just going to put words, you're going to put the picture too. There's multiple ways in English to represent meaning. You can do it through writing. You can do it through a picture. You can do it through a facial expression. There are multiple ways to share meaning in English. All right, so labeling is important because it helps children to make that mental link that these squiggles and pictures have meaning. When you do this, it means you have a literacy-rich environment. It is also delightful when you can add labels that have to do with the child's home language. So let's give an example. Back in the day, we had a family that spoke Dutch. I don't know about y'all, but I don't speak a single word of Dutch. And I don't even know if that's the correct label for that language. Maybe it's another, who knows? I don't know. Regardless, we had a couple parts of the classroom that we printed out the label, like maybe for door. Okay, we labeled door, put a picture of door, and then we handed it to the family and said, we would love it if you could write down in your language what that is underneath it. And they did. We got it back, we looked at it, we said, how do you pronounce that? And the family would say it, and we'd get a little pencil underneath it and write out the pronunciation so we could understand what on earth was, so we could say it to the child appropriately, correctly. Okay, so let's say, let's say it's French. And let's say you labeled where doll was supposed to be in the home area. I believe in French, doll is poupée or something like that. So it would be written in French underneath English, and then I would probably write lightly in pencil underneath, maybe P-O-O space P-A-Y, just so I'd be able to read it correctly. So that's helpful, especially if you don't speak the language. And never trust Google to translate it for you in their home language, because their home language could be different than the person that programmed it into Google. Put writing everywhere you can in the classroom where children can see it easily. Put the children's names on things that belong to them. They're parts of the classroom. If you have the children's pictures on the wall, feel free to put their name with it, because children, one of the first words they learn to recognize is their name. They care very deeply about them. So if you can put their name down, they'll recognize it after a bit. Make sure you have books all throughout your classroom. The books don't have to just live in the book area. You can put a book about building in the block area. You could put a book of recipes, a cookbook, in the home area. You could put a book about art in the art area. Hopefully one that's a bit tore up, because it's going to get drawn on or painted on if you put it over there. All right, print concepts. Knowing the parts of the book. So again, this is for a toddler class. I wouldn't necessarily bother in an infant class with the parts of the book, but parts of the book. So the cover, that's a right? The spine is a part of the book. Learning that when we read a book, we move from this side to this side in English. That's important. That we start at the top and work our way down. That's important too. We talked about using labels. We talked about using photos. Yep, we covered all this. Brilliant, great. Classroom library. Most experts suggest having 5 to 8 books per child. That's a lot if you have a lot of kids in your classroom. Places you can get books either free or inexpensively. I know that Half Price Books, at least a couple years ago, had a thing where you could get book donations from them if you went, and registered with them as a teacher. Garage sales, you can get books, usually really cheap. Does anybody else have a suggestion of where you have gotten books inexpensively for your classroom or free?
There's a like a little book cabinet thing in our neighborhood where if you take a book or you just return it after you're done, there's something like that in our neighborhood.
Thank you. So like a lending library that if the book gets torn up, you're not charged. That's good. The real library is good for books for you to be able to read to children, but you can't share the book and let them run around with it because children rip up books at our age group. Board books are the best for our group because they're harder to rip the pages, right? Another resource you can tap for books are parents at your school. So let's say you have a parent that their child is now turning 4 years old and they want to get rid of all their baby books. I'll take them. So you can ask your director, can we post somewhere in the school that we'd like families to know they can donate their old board books to us? That we like those. Yeah. Sometimes even the library will sell their old books. So just being aware of what's available. All right, so this breaks down for what a classroom library might look like for young and mobile infants versus toddlers. The stories for the infants would be mostly about babies, families, animals, everyday experiences that they would experience. Songs, rhymes, and chants. Simple, bright pictures, only 1 or 2 things per page. You don't want a lot of stuff on the page for a baby book because they can't really focus in on anything that way. And then for toddlers, it should have more words on the page. As they get older, there should be more words to read. If for some reason you get donated some books, I actually have some word books here. Okay, done. I'm coming. All right, so let's look at some different options here. I would consider this a baby level book that could actually be used for upper classes. This one is called Curious Critters Michigan. So it'd probably be different for each state. And it just talks really simply, has 1 picture per page, and it says mallard duck, listen for me calling quack, quack, quack in Michigan. If you wanted something like this and it wasn't in your budget to purchase something like this, you can make your own books for your classroom too. Has anybody ever made a classroom book with your kids?
Yes.
You can get pictures of the kids doing things. You can get pictures of things that you see on the playground, pictures of parts of your classroom. Write a sentence about it, write just one big word about it, whatever, laminate it, and put some of those like binder rings, or you can tie string to make the spine. Here's one that everybody should know, a board book, Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. It has more writing on it, so I wouldn't use this in a baby room. It has like a sentence per page. It's a lot. Then something like this, I wouldn't expect to see consistently until you're around 3. Because this is one with the paper pages. You can start introducing paper pages for nice books towards the end of 2 years, not towards the beginning because they're going to get ripped out. But this is a more complex scene. It has a lot more writing. So just being aware. However, if you get a pile of free books, use them. Doesn't matter what they have in them, right? Just long as it's not anything that'll get you in trouble, right? Just, hey, free books, we will use these. Great, super. Okay, moving along. Do we have time to get into this? Sure. Do I have my textbook with me? It is in my bedroom. I will go get it. Take a look in your textbook at figure 48A and B. Can somebody please try to find what page number that is for me? Figure 48A and B in your communication chapter. Once you find the page, if you could put it in chat so other people will know where it is, and I will go grab my book as well. Did you find it yet? Nope, not yet. Figure 48A and B in the communication chapter is where?
Page 269.
Thank you.
And 270.
Okay. So take a look in 269 at the toddler section. If you don't have a toddler classroom, I apologize. You're going to have to make believe for a moment. And let's look at this and read it with this lens. Are there any surprises for materials that I see here? Is there something like, I never thought of putting that in that center? Do you have some stuff that they didn't even consider in your classroom? Okay, and then think about your classroom. Is there anything that this gave you an idea where you're like, oh, I'm going to put that in my classroom? So let's take a few minutes, read it, and think about these things. Just the toddler one. Okay, I think it's a pretty quick read. So let's start with the first question. Are there any materials that they suggested that surprised you?
For me, I have a toddler class. Hold on. Let me mute them. Sorry. For me, I have a toddler class. One of the things that surprised me was wooden traffic signs in the block center. I mean, we have soft blocks. We don't have wood blocks at our like center. Sorry they only have those for the older kids. And so I never thought of that for my 2-year-olds because I don't know, it's just I always feel like they're gonna hit each other with it and that's gonna hurt versus the soft blocks that we have. I mean they're still able to, you know, stack up the soft blocks that we have, or we have like it's like silicone blocks too that we have for them to use that are Legos. And then so I might talk to my teacher and see if maybe she would see if we can get some and see how that goes for a little while.
Do you have any cars in that area?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so it would probably go with the cars, right? So have some signs that you would see around the community. They don't have to be traffic signs. It could be a sign for HEB or a sign for Target or something that you could create.
Oh yeah, I could do that.
I have
Do you
seen
pictures
some
of
teachers
them?
that have the wooden blocks in a toddler class,
Uh-huh.
and they will go and print out like symbol for Target and write Target on it, and just get some of that clear tape and tape it to a block for the kids to use it to make a building.
I'm gonna use that then.
Okay, did anybody else see, thank you. Did anybody else see anything that surprised you? Nobody else found anything they're like, oh, didn't consider that before?
What I've also seen is magnetics, anything with magnetics or magnetic blocks or magnetic letters that they can, like puzzles.
All right, so if you use magnetic letters, what do you need to be aware of for your age group? They're usually about that big.
They're right, choking hazard.
So magnetic letters are brilliant. They're great. Just be aware of the size of them. You might have to get a larger size. Yeah, but they're great, especially if you have something metal that they can mess them around on. Anybody else have anything that spoke to you in there?
The index cards were not something I think I would have thought of if I were in a toddler room.
And maybe the reason that they have index cards, for those of you that are older than 25, index cards used to be a lot more present in our culture before computers really caught on.
Oh, I had to use them all the time in high school.
And I'm not going to ask how old you are, Heather. It's okay. I'm not going to ask. But they used to be a lot more prevalent in our culture. And I think that might be, this chart might be holding on a little bit to that, when you could just walk in any grocery store and there'd be like, there are the index cards, just pick up a big container of them. And they were fairly inexpensive. I don't know if they still are inexpensive. If they are though, they're nice because they have that heavier texture. So it's less easy to just, you know, when a toddler or infant goes to grab something, it just gets crumpled. And the index card should have a little bit more body to it, a bit more weight. Thank you, Heather. Anybody else?
Magazines.
Okay. So magazines, where was that? Oh yeah, I see it in dramatic play. Magazines are great because if they do rip them, it's something that's already been used, right? So if it gets ripped, okay, we carry on with our life. Magazines can usually be gotten for free at some libraries. Have you all ever noticed at a library they have like a basket in the front where people can bring their old magazines and just dump them in and other people can pick them up? Have you all ever noticed that? Not every library, but some libraries have it.
Yes.
You need to be aware about if you're putting magazines in your classroom. What do you think?
The pictures on them. You gotta be careful what's in them.
So some magazines, nothing could offend you in it. Other magazines, you're like, oh, that's a part of the body we didn't need to see on there. So just like flip through first and just rip out the pages that bother you and put it out for the kids to mess with. Also, you all get those catalogs at your center, advertising different toys and such. Kids love looking through those. Has anybody ever put that out for a child to flip through? It's kind of. All right, thank you. Anybody else have one that you'd like to discuss?
Nope.
Okay, moving on then. Okay, oral language development is where we hang out in early childhood. A lot of those interactions we have with children are not by us writing it on a board and holding it up for them to understand it. Instead, it's all about the give and take. I'm going to say something to you. I'm going to wait a moment for some sort of response from you to come back to me. And then I'm going to contingently respond to that. I'm going to respond in a way that takes into account what you have just shared with me. The Linguistic Society of America states that young children who are exposed to speech solely through TV and radio will not learn to talk. Why do you think that might be? Because they're hearing it. What's missing?
The need to go back and forth, like the actual communication back and forth is missing.
Mm-hmm. Totally. That and that relationship. You know, having that adult that cares about you, that is willing to form that bond. So the bond is missing, and then the contingent responding, being able to, so like on back in the day, Blue's Clues, tried to do a little bit of it. For those of you that are younger than me, you probably have very fond memories of watching Blue's Clues. And Steve, because I'm going to date myself here, the original Blue's Clues fella, he would pretend to do contingent responding. He would ask a question, "Where's Blue?" And then he'd pause and he'd be silent. And then Blue would be like, you know, going around the screen or something. And what was supposed to happen was that the children would point and say, "There's Blue, I see Blue in that corner there." And then he would be able to say, "Oh, do you see Blue in the corner?" "Yes, I see Blue in the corner." "You're right, Blue's in the corner." And if you were one of the kids that participated that way, you might have gotten a little bit more out of it. But if you were a kid that for some reason got the answer wrong, that contingent response wouldn't have been there, right? He would have said, "Yes, you're right, it's in the corner." And you're like pointing over here. No. So having it really depend back and forth and have the conversation change depending on how the child responds is important. By talking with young children and engaging them in conversation throughout the day, you can help children develop strong oral language skills and ensure their future reading and writing success. So before children can speak actual words, they communicate non-verbally with you. What are some non-verbal ways children communicate before they can speak words?
Sign language.
Try again. I didn't hear it.
The faces that they make when they're eating.
Facial expressions. Yes. What else?
Screaming.
Okay, making sounds.
Sign language.
Sounds. What was that?
Sign language.
Sign language. So if you have taught them some baby sign, perhaps. Who are my baby sign people? What am I saying?
More.
Any other way they communicate?
Pointing.
Or they'll go like this, or maybe they'll communicate like this to you.
Mm-hmm.
Pick me up. Or maybe you're holding them and all of a sudden they kind of go limp and start wiggling. They're like, put me down. So if they go like this to you to get picked up, you're responding to that. And you're probably saying, oh, you want me to pick you up? And then you pick them up. Or you give them a reason why you can't pick them up, whatever. But you're responding to how they communicated to you.
Even their cries, I think, if you can identify the types of cries, is also weird.
Yep. So depending on how long you've been around that baby, you know what cry means what. And that's a good life skill to have when communicating, definitely. Some early childhood experts have found that conversation that goes beyond the here and now also has an impact on literacy development. And this is almost a math-like thing. So we had talked earlier math vocabulary for on top, below, in front, behind, on the side, that kind of thing, right? But when you're talking to kids, you can also say, oh, yesterday, today, tomorrow, and those are also words that should be taken into account. You don't always need to talk about what's happening in this moment. It's also nice to have a chat about what happened yesterday in the classroom. What's going to happen tomorrow? When you have those kinds of conversations, it helps children develop their ideas for representing cognition, and it helps them understand better. Now, kids in general don't really get the concept of yesterday and tomorrow. So if a kid tells you something happened yesterday, it may have happened yesterday. It may have happened 3 years ago. But the idea is it happened in the past, right? That's the major goal for you, to what happened in the past, what's going to happen in the future. All right. So in order to have a beneficial conversation, you need to have a balance of adult and child input. That means taking turns. It can't be all about you. It's about them. You need to have turns. Attentive listening is very helpful. Now, you cannot force a child to listen to you, as you all are very well aware. However, you can model, you can show children what attentive listening looks like. Extended talk that stays on the topic of interest of the child. So, for example, if a child is telling you, yesterday, I saw a horse at rodeo, you would respond to that. You know, you'd have your balance, your turn. Oh, you saw a horse at rodeo yesterday. Tell me about the horse. What did the horse do? And the kid can tell you what the horse did. Oh, another thing you could do that's not good is the child says, oh, I saw a horse at rodeo yesterday. That's great. Let's talk about ABCs now. Wait, what? I didn't tell you about this horse I saw yesterday. Just take control of the conversation and run with it the way you want, because the child's going to lose interest. And they need to feel, they need to get that give and take. Remember, it mentioned if they could learn just by listening and not having to respond, you could just turn on the TV and walk away. They need to have that contingent response. And then the last thing is vocabulary is introduced in an intentional way. So we talked about not just using big words, but also explaining the big word and using the big word intentionally every day. You're not just pulling out a big word to use one time. You're going to use it multiple times in your class. So let's say you're in a toddler classroom and you're in the block area building with the child. What is a vocabulary block area? What's a word that is higher level that you would use in a block area?
Construct.
Construct. Good word. Anybody else?
Writing about communication.
Can it be something as easy as just like building?
Yeah.
Imagine.
I've heard a lot of teachers use the word structure, you know, for something that has been built. You know, tell me about your structure. You could use terms from actual construction, like you could talk about foundation type thing, crossbeam, whatever, right? But you're not just using it one time, you're using it during their time with you in the classroom for that year. One-shot deal. Okay. Research has found that children spend 17% of their day engaged in meaningful talk with their teacher. 18% of their day talking with peers, 59% not talking at all. And some of you that have some really chatty children, you're like, that can't possibly be a thing. But this is an average, right? Some children don't shut off and others you can't get them going. So this is an average. Everyday experiences that help strengthen language are to build, remember, it's all about that positive relationship. Everything starts with the positive relationship. The amount of time that you spend communicating with children, back and forth, how complex that conversation gets. So complexity of the conversation, if we're talking about the child that says, I see horsey, or I saw horse. Oh, you saw a horse at the rodeo yesterday? What did the horse do? Neigh. Oh, the horse made the sound neigh. Wow, what else did the horse do? Did the horse run? Yes, horse run. So that's pretty complex, right? You're really getting into it and staying with it for a while. Model conversational skills, not only with the children, but other grown-ups in your classroom. So if you have a co-teacher in your classroom or a sub or somebody else that comes in, you need to model those back and forth skills with them too. Listen to children attentively during conversations, encourage the children to talk. Do you remember when we watched that bubble video last week? How that teacher asked those open-ended questions where she was just trying to pull language out of those children? That's something that we need to strive for. Striving for children to give you more language. So not asking questions that they can just say yes or no, but tell me about it. Try to understand what the children are trying to say and help them express it. So if somebody is angry or frustrated, you can say, oh, you look really angry right now. Heather took the block you were playing with. You can tell Heather, I'm using that. Or you can tell Heather my block, or you can tell Heather, I don't like that. So kind of helping structure it for them. All right. One thing that is interesting for us is children are learning grammar at a very young age. This is again, mostly in your toddler class, infant teachers, but a child might say something like, I went into the store. You don't want to shut them down. So they said something not quite right. I wented to the store. They almost got there, right? You're not going to tell them, oh, you don't say wented, you say went. That's going to make the child not want to talk to you. So it would be better if you just asked a clarifying question and modeled what they should say. Oh, did you go to the store yesterday? You went to the store? And that's a way you can model it for them. Instead of shutting them down, you're being interested in what they're saying and responding. We talked last week about scaffolding. I hope you all remember we talked about what a child was able to comfortably do, and then what a child could do with some support, and then beyond that, frustration. So when we scaffold a child's language development, we try to use language that's just a little bit more complex than what the child is using. So if a child said to you, I wented to the store, you could say, oh, you went to the store yesterday? That's so exciting. Keep it short. Don't give them a whole monologue of, oh, you went to the store yesterday? That must have been so exciting. I frequently go to the HEB at 1604 in Bandera, and the other day I noticed that they had bananas on sale. Holy heck. Keep it short so that they can remember what you said and respond. Don't pull out a huge word and expect them to understand it without you giving a simple definition for it. So like, don't pull out the word egocentric or something like that for a child, unless that's something that's some word that's like going to be a part of your room, like talking about foundation, right? If we're in the block area, we want to use the big word foundation and introduce it. That's fine. You can use a big word like that, but you need to make it very concrete. It's like, oh, this is the foundation. We're going to use this to build our structure on. It's the thing we build on is our foundation. And if you keep using it, it's fine. You're not just going to be pulling out big words and throwing them around for willy-nilly, because it takes away your meaning. Another thing is hold conversations during meal times. It's really nice to have those back and forth conversations when you're sitting at the table with the children. It's very easy to do then, because they're all kind of contained in one area, and you don't have to focus as hard on what's going on in other parts of the classroom. All right, let's talk about some strategies you can do to support children's speech. We're going to start with the global item for speech, which says that teachers need to listen to children attentively and respond appropriately. And it also says in TRS that teachers need to use positive verbal responses and encouragement. Teachers also are required to communicate with children throughout the day, not just in little bits and pieces. And then that teachers use vocabulary words with children, words that are that children need to hear to understand what's going on around them. So in this picture, the teacher might be using the vocabulary word of carrot, or the word slice, or the word piece, or even the word tray or orange. All right, so here's some practice we can do. We want to add descriptive language to this. So kids will frequently come up to you and show you something, right? They run up to you and say something like, look at it, right? Look at it. And as a teacher, that's an opportunity for you to describe what you see. So if this child walks up to you and is holding up this shirt, what could you respond to them? Now, typically, if you weren't being very thoughtful, you might just say, oh, that's nice, good shirt, like it, great. But if you want to be thoughtful and build their language, how could you describe this as if they run up to you and say, look at it?
Say, wow, what is on that shirt? Or where did you get that shirt?
Okay.
Tell me about it. That's amazing.
Yep. So tell me about it. You said some other things too, but my brain didn't catch them all. I apologize. Tell me about it. I did catch. And
what's on it?
What's on it? Thank you. And
where did you get it?
Describe it to me. So very cool. You could also model describing it to the child. You could say, wow, you got, it looks very Avenger-y to me. So you got an Avenger shirt. I see that the character Hulk, I see the character Thor. Which character do you see on here? You know, and just start a conversation that way. But don't just let them say, look at it. Oh, you got a shirt? You know, label it for them. Another thing teachers need to do is self-talk. Self-talk makes you sound like a crazy person. However, when you're with infants and toddlers, you sometimes feel like a crazy person anyway, so you might as well embrace it and roll with it. Self-talk is describing what you are doing as you're doing it. Why might, in this example, look at what this teacher is doing. What do you think that teacher is doing right now for that group?
Explaining how she's putting the pieces together.
Okay. So the odds are the children are frustrated that they can't get those pieces to link up. The teachers come over and the teacher has some options. The teacher could just stick them together and hand them back to the children. But that doesn't really develop their language skills any. Self-talk is the teacher's doing it and the teacher's explaining, okay, I want to fit these two pieces together. I see that there are 3 pieces on this side, so I need to find the other side that has 2 pieces on it. Let me turn it. Do I see 2 pieces here? No. Let me turn it again. Do I see 2 pieces? Oh, yes, I do. I'm going to try to squish them together in the air. And if it was me at this point, I would probably pretend I couldn't do that and say, oh, I can't squish them together in the air. This is a problem. I can't do it. My arms aren't strong enough. Oh, I know. I'll put it on the ground and squish it together. So it's the problem solving and talking through out loud so the children understand the thought process. And they're hearing you solve a problem out loud. And that gives them ideas for when they have a problem, how to solve it.
I do that so much at my work that I tend to do it at home and my family thinks I'm crazy.
Yeah, like I said, you're going to sound like a crazy person to people that aren't in early childhood. Now, if you do it around people in early childhood, they're like, yep, she's one of my people. And that's great. But describing what you're doing, a great time to practice this, diaper changes, because the baby wants to know what's going on anyway, right? So as you're doing the diaper change, just talking through what you're doing. Oh, first I'm going to remove your pants, pull them down, pull, pull, pull. Oh, I see that you have a poo-poo, so I'm going to take your pants all the way off. Now I am going to undo the Velcro and we're going to pull them down. Oh, I see you have a lot of poop today, so I need to get a wipe. Ooh, this wipe is cold. So we're gonna start with the wipe on the front. Here it comes. Here's the cold wipe. Ooh, it's so cold. Have you all ever tried that?
Yes.
It's a really good, I'm sorry, baby, let me put you back down. It's a really good skill to develop. And it makes you look like a pro teacher. This is pro teacher level you're operating at when you are doing self-talk. So even though you may think I sound like a crazy person, you are operating at pro teacher level when you do this. Okay? This is not introductory, it is pro level. Another thing to try out and to do is, they call it 2 different things. I've heard it called mirror talk, and I've heard it called parallel talk. Two different ways you can describe it, mirror talk or parallel talk. Mirror talk is when you describe what you see the child doing. Why might you describe what the child is doing?
It helps build their vocabulary. So they might not fully, like, they know what they're doing, but they may not know how to put it into words. So you're helping them build their vocabulary by explaining to them what they're doing while they're doing it, or why they're doing what they're doing.
Thank you. It's also a really good way to connect with a child. So for young ones, it's all about me, right? Every day with them, they're living in the headspace of it's all about me. So if you take the time as a teacher to sit down from them and describe, really focus on what you're doing and describe it, that's lovely. Oh, we're going to talk about me now? Yes, let's talk about me. Go ahead, teacher, describe what I'm doing. That's lovely. Also, as Heather mentioned, she is correct. It is about giving them the words. Oh, you're washing the baby with the washcloth. Oh, I see you're pouring the water over the baby's hair to wet the hair before you shampoo it. That's great. All right, encouraging frequent opportunities, providing frequent opportunities for the child to talk to you and with you. This works better when you have a lower teacher-child ratio, of course. But whenever you see that there's a lull in the classroom, so let's say you have a free choice time and you're in your classroom, and normally during free choice time, it's very exciting. A lot of stuff is happening, right? And you have to be more aware of everything that's going on and ready to respond. But every once in a while, there'll be a lull where everybody's kind of engaged in something and you don't have the heightened emotions in the room. When you hit that lull, it's lovely for you to go and sit next to a child and start describing what they're doing, having a conversation. Those are your opportunities. Now, if you have the heightened emotion in your room, your opportunities are more limited, but you can still do it. If there's a child with that you have to keep your eye on a little more closely, and you can't sit down and talk with the quiet child right then, who could you talk to? You could talk to the kid that you have to be following around anyway, right? If you're shadowing somebody because, at any minute, something really interesting could happen, then why not talk to that child? They're right there anyway. You don't just need to be their silent shadow following them around. Have that conversation, describe what you're seeing. It also helps them with self-regulation to be able to control what they're doing. So if you see them walking up to somebody's structure in the block area, you could say, oh, I see you're walking up to Liz's structure in the block area. Liz looks worried as you're coming close to her. I think Liz is worried that you may knock it down. Let's step back a little bit so Liz isn't worried. And you can support them that way. Allowing time for response. I have a hard time with this personally, especially when we toss it out in class and all I see are black screens with your names on it. I'll ask a question, then I'm like, I can usually pinch it in for a couple seconds, but if I know I need to provide wait time. So one way I do it is my count to 5 with my hand, just to I am silent and wait for y'all to say something. It's good to allow children time to respond, especially if the child is a second language learner, because for anybody that speaks a second language, sometimes In order to respond to somebody, you have to take what they say, process it in that language, translate it to your home language, process, send it back to the new language, and then send out a response. That takes time. So giving the extra time and waiting for some sort of gesture or speech before you just carry on is really nice. Another thing for Texas Rising Star they would like to see you do is to engage children in conversations about a variety of topics. Not everything needs to be about the syllables in the name or rhyming words.
No, baby.
Lydia, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, sorry. No. He accidentally hit the mute, unmute button. Stop.
I think somebody from class just texted me. Nope, it wasn't somebody else. Okay. Back and forth exchanges. We consider these serve and return, like for table tennis or actual tennis or volleyball, you serve it and then it gets returned to you. And it's just passing that conversation ball back and forth multiple times. So it's not just, okay, I asked them a question, they responded, moving on. It's sticking with it for like 5 times. Using language to expand understanding and add meaning. So your kids are frequently going to give you a one-word response to something or tell you one word. Here's a very common example. You have a ball in your classroom. The child will show it to you and say ball. So this is where you can add on to it for them. You like that yellow ball? Let's see how far we can roll it. So there's paraphrasing and then there's expanding it, right? Or extending it. If you were just going to try to understand what the child was saying, you could say something like, oh, you have a yellow ball? You have a yellow ball? You like the yellow ball? That would just be trying to translate for them. Expanding is what we have here, where the teacher's saying, let's see how far you can roll it. That's expanding upon it, extending it, if you will. Here's another one. The teacher says, I stars. And paraphrasing it or translating it for the child could be, you're building with the stars. Do you see how that adds to a child's understanding of how to make a sentence when a teacher gives them the example based on what they just said? Okay. And you're not telling them, don't say I stars, say instead, I'm building with the stars. You're just responding like a natural conversation. And you're translating for them. You're trying to figure out, did you mean you're building with the stars? So you usually go up a little bit, like for the question at the end, you're building with the stars? Or you like the yellow ball? So let's have a whack at this one. We have a child that has a train in front of them and they say, I train. What's a response you could give to this child that would, let's start first with just translating what they said. What would be a translation or paraphrasing what that child said?
I'm playing with the train.
You're playing with the train? Totally, thank you. Now, that is translating or paraphrasing for the child. If we want to expand upon it, to add more to it, what could we say? So let's start with the root. You're playing with the train. What's an expansion sentence we could add on to that?
Could you do what sound does a train make?
Sure. You're playing with the train? What sound is that train making? Sure.
Where is your train going?
Ooh, where's that train going? That'd probably give you an interesting answer. Anybody else?
How many trains are there?
Okay.
How many trains do you have? Sorry.
How many trains do you have? Okay, sure. Totally. And the more you get in practice with that, the more tools you'll have in your back pocket to be able to pull out. So typically, the two questions that teachers will ask most for children are, what color is it? Or what shape is it? Right? For your toddlers, those are pretty standard questions. What shape, what color? So if you can ask them something more open-ended, like where is it going? What sounds is it making? How is it sticking together? How did you make it stick together like that? Those kinds of things pull more language from children. So if you ask a question and you just get flustered, right? You're like, what color? And they say blue. You're like, oh, well, okay. They gave me a one-word response. I asked too easy of a question. What next question could I ask to get more words? You don't just give up because you get just a one-word response. You change your next question to get more words out of them. All right, let's start with a paraphrase. Paraphrase or translating what this child is saying. The child says yellow to you when you walk up. How are you going to paraphrase? Heather, did you just text me? Knock yourself out, girl. All right, anybody? The child says yellow. What can we say to translate or paraphrase yellow for that child? Actually, everybody in chat, translate that, paraphrase it. The child comes up to you and says yellow. How are you? What is the child trying to tell you? Give the sentence of what the child is trying to tell you. In the chat, everybody. Chop, chop, wake up. We've got half an hour left in class. Let's do it. I see some people are giving me fragments of a sentence. Give me a whole sentence. There we go. Everybody's waking up now. Great. All right, so that is your translation of what the child told you. Very good. Now, think about what's an extending sentence? What's an expansion sentence? We've now translated what the child was trying to tell us. Now we're going to ask a question and give an expansion to it. What could we add on to your sentence for an extension or an expansion?
The yellow block has a green circle on it.
Okay. But remember, you are trying to get words out of them.
Oh,
extension,
okay.
but there's nothing for them to answer. You're like, yes, it does.
We can ask
I'm writing this too. You can call it out. Yes, Juliet, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Well, you could ask what color the circle is on the yellow block.
Okay, that would give you a one-word response. So we're getting there. Try to think of at least 2 words back.
You can ask what other shapes fit into it. If you can see like up the structure they have, there's other pieces that can fit in. They're fitting in a yellow star, so you can ask like, oh, look, what fits into the green one? What fits into the red one?
Okay, thank you. I'm seeing, let's see what people are posting. What are you doing with that block? Ooh, that's a good one. What are you doing with the block? Tell me what you're doing with the block. So some people are giving me expansions that, so somebody said, I think it was Juliet, that there's a green circle on the block. I believe somebody said, Stefania said the star is yellow like the sun. Those are lovely. Those get you talking, and that's great. But as you're doing these, remember you're also trying to pull language out of that child. So you need to be asking questions that have more than a one-word answer as well. So Stefania, it's great. You could totally,
Okay, Mama.
the star is yellow like the sun. Then maybe you look around the classroom and say, what else is yellow like the sun? Or you could say, I see, where did you put the star? Where did you choose to put the star? Why did you choose to put the star on top? Because this is an older child, right? This is not a baby. They should be able to give you some words back. Oh, do you see the stars at night? Interesting. What else do you want to do with the star? Okay. Yep. I'm liking this feedback, people. Good job. Even though I'm not supposed to say good job to children, I think we have grown up in the culture of good job for long enough that we appreciate it. What else can you do with the star? All right, let's try it again. So the child is writing and the child says, my name, pointing at it, right? My name. Paraphrase it. And you can pick whatever name you want for this child. It's totally up to you. Let's paraphrase it or translate what that child means. Give one sentence in the chat. What is that child trying to tell you? So it's the question you'd ask the child. Oh, you, what? What is the translation? What is the paraphrase? You're giving a whole sentence to the child back, remember. Okay, Jasmine. So I see you've named the child Jasmine, very nice. Your name has Jasmine. Great. Anybody else? What is paraphrasing for this? It doesn't have to be spelling out the child's name, even though that's a good one, Jasmine. Are you seeing your name? What letters are in your name? I see you wrote your name. Yep, great. Well done. Now, what would be an extension? So you just paraphrased, what's an extension? Ashley said, what letter does your name start with? Okay, it's a single word response, but it's still powerful. How many letters are in your name? Okay. Again, a single word response, but sometimes we start with single word responses to get the ball rolling. Heather, would you really respond to the child with what? Because that's hilarious.
My fingers were getting the best of me typing and I jumped ahead with the return enter button.
Okay. So I have done that before. That's why I think it's so funny. It's just like, wait, what? What'd you just tell me? What? Yeah, I'm guilty. All right. Wonderful. How do you pronounce your name? Great. Thank you. Here's an example of going straight into an extension because the teacher fully understood what the child said, so the teacher didn't need to paraphrase anything. The child says, my grandmother has a garden. So you don't, because the child spoke it in a complete sentence, because the child was easily understood by you, you don't have to give the translation to them. You can just skip that. So the teacher here, her extension is, tell me what your grandmother grows in her garden. Ooh. Can anybody come up with an alternate that you could ask this child for an extension? My grandmother has a garden. Are there any flowers or fruits and vegetables in the garden? Okay. Yeah. What colors do you see in the garden? Do you help your grandmother out in the garden? What do you like about the garden? These are good. Y'all are rocking this now. Whoop, whoop. I'd like to visit all your classrooms and hear some of this stuff. This is nice. What's your favorite thing she grows in her garden? I can tell you, as somebody that goes in classrooms, if I heard a teacher talking like this with children, I would just be delighted, simply delighted. And I'd probably leave the room and go find the director and say, you got to go listen to this teacher. This teacher needs to be training everybody. Did you plant anything in the garden? All right, you can also, do you help in the garden? You can also add some descriptive words when you're doing that paraphrase part and make it a little mini extension. So if the child tells you the flower is pink, you could give maybe the vocabulary word for the flower. Or you could say the flower, the pink flower is a rose. What are some of the things y'all do to take care of the garden? Yep. I especially like the Texas y'all in there. I approve. All right, I think we've got the hang of this. I don't think we need to do that anymore. All right. So let me turn to 284 real quick. It's actually 282, not 284. It starts with 282 and talks about introducing books to young infants, building their skills with literacy, and then it goes into building toddler skills on 283. And it looks different in different age groups, okay? So don't just take this screen to say, oh yes, I must teach the alphabet. Maybe not. Look at your age group and see what is appropriate. Because just because you can train a child to recognize all the letters in the alphabet in the baby room, maybe that's not the way to go yet. Maybe it's not developmentally appropriate yet. All right, for writing development, encouraging practice with materials that make marks to get the whole arm, trying to narrow it down to just being able to move the hand and starting to develop this. For that, we talked about week before with fine motor skills. All those fine motor skill development helps you later on with writing. If you want to do some sort of writing project with your toddlers, you can be the one doing the writing and have them contribute in a small group to write it together, maybe for a book about something that happened in the classroom. Invite children to write their names if they desire to start writing. And some children do develop a little faster with that. And you'll know they're ready because they'll start making shapes on the paper that look like letters. So you'll know that, oh, they're starting to get really close to making letters. Now we can start talking about, practicing writing letters for fun, making it a part of a fun experience in the classroom. So you could have a sign in a little place for children to write their names and practice that way. It could be a chalkboard. It could be a marker on some sort of erasable thing. It could be sand in the sand table that they can make letter shapes in with their finger. All those things are fun. But the first name that they care about writing is theirs. So having their name written plainly and large enough for them to be able to make it out and be able to trace the letters is really nice. We've talked a lot about, well, not a lot, but we've talked some about dual language learners today and how their receptive language develops before the expressive for their second language. Children that speak two languages will intermix the languages. As you well know, anybody that speaks more than one language will just pull in other words that they know. If they have a blank for the word in English, maybe they pull it from Dutch or Spanish, whatever their home language is. The home language is where a lot of learning happens before they even get into your classroom. It's their foundation for growth. And children feel valued and a part of the community in the classroom when their home language is brought in whenever possible. Home language only children speak the only way they know how. There's a possible silent period where they stop talking and observe carefully and listen carefully. They can show that they understand before they can speak to show they understand. So they might, head nod, or if you ask everybody to line up to go outside, they'll go line up and oh, they understood me. They might need you to give them the script, just like you would with a toddler. So if a toddler is needing, we usually do this like for problem solving, right? If the toddler gets pushed, you give them a script. You say, you can say, I don't like that. You can say, stop, I don't like that. You could say, ouch, that hurt. And those are little things that you can also do with somebody learning a new language, giving them just that little chunk of, in this situation, you could say this. You're not saying say it. You're giving them the option. You could say this. Children usually learn the higher level vocabulary in their home language before they learn it in the second language. Partnering with families. Because of COVID, this is more difficult than it would normally be. However, we have talked a little bit about some things you can do. We talked about the CDC developmental milestone charts that you can share with families. Those also on the milestone charts have a section that tell adults what you can do to support development at this age. That's lovely. You can also have ways to communicate with families during the day, possibly through apps or texting, depending on what's appropriate at your center. You can also share with your families why you do things in the classroom. You could say, oh, I'm labeling these things in the classroom so the children understand that words have meaning. You can do that at home if you like. You can talk to your children about their day. You can read with your child every day. Some centers will have a little library where parents can check out the book to take it home to read. You can model for families how to play with their children. Some families don't have the personal experience to understand a way to play with children developmentally appropriately. You can teach the families the songs you sing in the classroom, or give them like, here's the YouTube link to the song we learned today. And you can talk to families about why it's important to write where your children can see where you're writing and how you're using your writing. All right, we have 12 minutes left. Let's talk about what's due for next week. And for those of you that came late, I was in a training all day Thursday and Friday and was unable to respond to what you have sent me so far. I am not out of, I don't have free time to look over that stuff until Tuesday afternoon this coming week. So start to expect seeing feedback Tuesday afternoon. All right, I'm turning in my binder now to the second page, which has the February 12th communication chapter. Like every week, we're reading the chapter, communication. It seems like every week now we're going to create an activity for it, but just one activity this week. Woohoo! Just a single activity. Doing the Facebook post about some sort of literacy activity you've done. And then the last one is the CS2D, and that's writing about communication and language development. I'm going to turn in my book, my notebook, to find where we are right now. And I do see the language and literacy learning experience in my binder, which looks exactly like the other learning experiences. It just has language and literacy at the top. And the next page is competency statement 2D, which again is 2 paragraphs. We're going to use the same structure we always use, where we pick a bullet point from the book and then we give a supporting statement. The first paragraph is about how do you normally support communication in your classroom? Now, when they say communication, they include reading. They include chats you have with the children. They include songs you sing with the children. They include labeling things. You've got a really rich pool to pull from for this. You can also look, I think I said, what was it, 282? Let me pull it back open. I feel like it was 282. Well, honestly, I see right here on 278 and 275, it talks about using everyday experiences to strengthen language skills. You could use some of those. And it breaks it down to young infants, mobile infants, and toddlers. Language development is on 278. It has some bullet points. Vocabulary development, it has some bullet points on 280. Reading development is on 282. So you just flip through as you see the bullet points. You can choose any of those that apply to your classroom. And you just need 3 for the first paragraph. What do I typically do to support communication? 3. And remember, you write a sentence about the bullet point, then you write a sentence to support it. Was that framework with me writing it in bold helpful for y'all to structure it? I hope so. Okay, good. And then your second paragraph has to do Okay. This is a little different. Typically, the second paragraph is how do I support it in my activity, right? For this one, it's a little different. It says for your second paragraph, describe ways to promote communication and language for all children, including dual language learners. So don't leave out your second language learners, even if you don't have them in your classroom. So just to reiterate, first paragraph, how I support communication in my classroom. Second paragraph, it says, how do I promote communication and language development amongst all children, including dual language? So you can pull for different age groups here. It has some generic stuff in here, like read books every day. And have frequent back and forth conversations. Ask open-ended questions. I'm seeing on page 278 some lovely stuff. 278 says, ask open-ended questions that require children to respond with more than 1 or 2 words. Talk with children during play. Make the most of reading time. Take advantage of dramatic play scenarios. Retell stories. Hold conversations during meal times. Okay, so these are like generalizations. Your second paragraph are generalizations for what is good practice to support children's communication and language. And then for dual language children, what are some special things you need to do? Does anybody want to pull open your book and try to find the page number where you would figure out that dual language thing? Hunt it down. There is a section in bold at the top where it says supporting dual language learners. Somebody try to find that page number and put it in chat, please. $294 does have it, but it's a bigger section. You are correct. 291 is the beginning of that section. So 294 is a part of it. 291 is the beginning of it. And as we have pointed out, it goes on for a few pages. So you have some options to pull from. I don't think you need to give more than one example for dual language. If you wanted to, you could. But you could do maybe 2 or 3 things that support all children and 1 to support dual language, or you could do maybe 2 to support all children and 2 for dual language, whatever you're feeling in the moment as you're writing it. Okay, there's no one right way. I'm going to stay on if anybody wants to do the language and literacy, finding the goals with me. Matter of fact, since we have a couple more minutes, I'm going to show you where to find those on Little Texans Big Futures. If you are having difficulty finding a goal, I would like it if you would contact me, because the goal is the foundation for your activity. Lydia, are you able to see the Internet Explorer screen?
Yes, I am.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm going to pull up the guidelines for Little Texans Big Futures, and I'm going to try to find us the page number where we would find the objectives for communication. All right. I am noticing that page 49 in Little Texan Big Futures is the beginning of the section on language and communication development. I think if you found anything between 49 and 59, that was an objective for your age group. Now remember, how many mobile infant ones do we need?
3.
Yep, and the same for the others. 3 non-mobile infants or young infants and 3 toddlers. So you need to mark down in your chart, you know, how many you're getting of each of these, because I don't want you to have to redo an activity because you don't have the correct age levels. I'm going to go to page 49 right now because we have a few minutes left and start reading off with you what are some choices for objectives. All right, I'm seeing for 0 to 8 months. Let's see. Respond to body language and directions given by the caregiver is one you could use. Respond to different tones of voice. Use hand motions and body movements in response to familiar words and phrases. So the stuff on this left side of the screen are your objectives, okay? The stuff on the right side of the screen gives you ideas on how to do those. Left side is your objectives. I'm seeing a lot of stuff in the chat. Let me go look at it. Okay, I see somebody asked a question about how many examples from the book for the second paragraph. I'd say you could eat 4 altogether. At least one of the 4 needs to be for dual language. You could do 2 and 2, 2 for everybody, 2 for dual language, or 3 for everybody, 1 for dual language. All right. I'm gonna go down. What other choices do we have? Woo. For older infants, some ideas that it gives you for objectives are recognize the names of familiar objects, follow simple requests, for example, get your ball, respond with body language or words to simple questions. For toddlers, some suggestions they give are let others know when they want to turn. They could say me or my turn. Follow 2-step requests. Show understanding by pointing to or touching a picture. All right, it's 12. Thank you very much for hanging on. The people that didn't get, that didn't hear me call your name or were unable to respond when I called your name, let me go through now and I'll call again and give you another chance to say you're here. Alejandra, are you here today? So for those of you that want to stay on, and we'll pick a objective together and start creating. Let me close that down for the attendance. All right, let's see who all's left. Brilliant. Do you all want 10 or 15 minute break, or do you want to jump right in? What are you feeling? Gonna need some feedback here, folks. For the people that want to stay on, do you want to have a 10-minute break?
Yes, please.
All right, so I'll see you back at 12. All right, I'm gonna put that in the chat. And Myra, I don't think you've chosen a goal for us for a while. Do you have a preference for an age group?
Infants, please.
Young infants or mobile?
Let's see. I think young infants.
All right, let's look at some for young.
Yeah, I do have a question before we get too deep into this.
Sure.
So you know how we need 3, I guess, topics for either young infant, mobile infant, or toddler?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we do it with our age group, right?
So you're talking about the Facebook thing, right?
Yes. And
so for the Facebook thing, let's say you wrote a toddler activity and you have babies.
Exactly. Yeah, that's where I'm going with this.
Okay. So if you have babies and you wrote a toddler activity, you can't do that activity as it's written with your babies. I understand that. However, you can share something having to do with that from this week.
Okay, so just like an improvised version or something.
You could do an improvised version, or you could say, you know what, I did do so like this week, I did do a communication activity with my babies. Let me just share that instead. Okay.
And in that case, would we still need to put like the age group and the description as we did in the as we wrote it in our
Nope. So for the Facebook, it's really about us coming together as a community and sharing ideas and activities. So the first person that posted this is for this age group and this is what I did. It'd be delightful for your posting on Facebook that you did share what age group you did and what you did. But the rest of this community, with the exception of me, isn't reading what you've turned in.
Oh, okay, so it doesn't really have to mirror what we turned in.
Correct.
I guess. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
I don't make a lot of sense very often. I appreciate it when I do. All right. So let's go back. Myra said you'd like to do the baby babies. So let me see if I can make this bigger so we can see it better, especially since some of you are on the phone. All right. So this is listening and understanding. Here are some options that we could choose from. Turn towards the sounds or voice of the caregiver. Respond to body language and directions given by the caregiver. Use hand motions and body movements in response to familiar words and phrases. I'm going to go down now to another baby one and see. Emergent literacy. Let's see what they have for baby babies and emergent literacy. All right, for that one, they have focus attention or make sounds during familiar songs, or touch, look at, or make sounds when looking at a picture book with a grown-up. So those are very nice. What other options do we have for a little baby?
What is the website again? Little Texans?
Little Texans, Big Futures. And seeing if there's anything else in here with goals. Let me make this bigger because I can't see it now. Yep. It was only those two choices we had for that age group. Were you, based on what I read, Myra, were you thinking more along the emergent literacy or more on the communication part? So the emergent literacy was focusing attention during songs, finger plays, making sounds when looking at picture books. And then the other one had to do more with just how the baby interacts with the caregiver. Did you have a preference?
With literacy is fine.
Okay. From this literacy, you have three choices. Honestly, I like the first two better than the third. So I'm going to say pick one of the first two.
Yeah, the first one.
Okay. So I'm going to copy that. If it'll let me. Copy. Do a new share. The language and literacy one. Right. Okay. Hold up my language and literacy learning experience. I'm going to paste the learning objective. And the learning objective was focus attention, move body, or make sounds during familiar songs, finger plays, or rhymes. Miss Myra, do you have a particular song, finger play, or rhyme that speaks to you that you'd like to do for a young infant class? I'm going to put young infant now on age group.
Let's see. Trying to think.
22. Do you work with young infants, Myra?
With babies, yes.
Okay. Do you have a song that you sing with them frequently or a finger?
I have, let me see, I have my book here. Like The Wheels on a Bus or.
Okay, that's a classic. We can use that. Is that all right? Can we use that one?
Yes, that's fine.
All right. So for materials, options, you could either just do it a cappella, which I honestly prefer, or you could have the music that you're playing in the background. Which would you prefer?
The music on the background is fine.
So step-by-step procedures would be, how do you think start up a singing experience with the children in a young infant room?
How do we start? Well, introducing, right, what we're gonna do, like let's sing a song, or
sing Wheels on the Bus.
Let's sing Wheels on the Bus, right?
All right, so step one, do you need to gather the babies to you, or are you going to have the babies engaging from wherever they are in the classroom?
Right, yes, wherever they are. Maybe the little ones, like the very little ones.
Because that's what this activity is for, the young infants.
Right.
I would normally clap my hands to get everyone's attention to start the song.
That's a good one.
All right, I'm going to posit that for young infants, they can't move to you.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be nice if you gathered them together and have them in a similar location to you, because they can't see you.
Right.
So I'm going to put for my first step to gather young infants close to teacher. Could use, could be in tummy time position.
Mm-hmm.
Or bouncer, or sitting up, right? Those are all choices. You could also hold the baby, right?
Yes.
Or hold baby. Though honestly, this song is a little difficult for holding a baby, but I'm sure you could figure it out. Okay, so you've got the babies. Then somebody mentioned clapping hands. Clap hands to indicate a transition. And announce, let's sing Wheels on the Bus. All right, number 3, if you're using the song, this is probably where you turn it on, right?
Yes.
Either, oops. Maybe do big hand gestures for parts of the song. Is there anything else that we should have on here, do you think, for the step-by-step procedures?
Do we also need to include how we're gonna end it, or at this point,
hurt.
or not yet?
It wouldn't hurt.
Okay.
I think we should end it.
By clapping, like you saying yay, or
clap and celebrate at the end of
the yes, clap and celebrate.
You'd also do the hand gesture for all done.
Right.
As you're doing it.
So infant sign, we're all done. I'm going to go and look at our objective again and make sure what we're doing fits with the objective, okay? Mm-hmm. objective is focus their attention. So they should, that shouldn't be a problem, right? Because you're singing. Focus attention shouldn't be a problem. Maybe during this number 4 where it says do big hand gestures for parts of the song, maybe we have here an encourage babies to do some hand gestures like what would you call this? The circles or something like that? Like the wheel circles?
Like the wheels, yes.
Okay. Do we think now that what we have for our procedures meets the learning objective of focus attention, move their body, or make sounds?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes.
All right, super. Look at us. We're just plowing through it today. I need to pull up the chat just in case somebody writes me something. All right. Follow up. A related material I may put in a center after this lesson, keeping in mind that these are non-mobile infants and they're not going to be able to really visit the different the classroom. It's stuff that you bring to them, right? Or you strategically and hand them things or put things within easy reach. What kinds of things do you think you might add to the classroom?
Like in my case for that song, I have a bus, like a soft cloth bus or kind of like teddy bear, like.
All right. So soft toy bus, I hear. Any other suggestions? Okay, that's perfectly fine. Not all of these need to be, stuffing follow-up full of things. One thing I might like to do for
a book, maybe, or
a book, sure. A book on wheels on the bus. I might also like for a follow-up to do the activity again, with or without the music.
Right.
If you did it with the music, then the next time maybe without. All right, how will I evaluate the activity? And remember, let's go back to the objective and see what we're evaluating. We are evaluating, did the babies focus their attention or move a little bit for it in response to it?
Were they responding to the movements that the teacher was doing? Were they imitating it?
If the children even seemed interested, did they make the eye contact while you were singing, or did they completely not look at all?
Did you observe any eye contact? There's some things to consider, right? So I put, did the babies enjoy the song? Did they try any of the movements? Did they make any sounds? Did you observe any eye contact? I think those all meet the objective. Let's think about some adaptations. So let's say you played this with the music and it was too fast for the babies. It's an adaptation you could make.
Just do it without the music. Sing it yourself so you can do it at your own pace.
Right.
Okay, so if the music is too fast, sing slower without the music. Okay. You could also make the song shorter if you're singing it.
Mm-hmm.
Make the song shorter. You can also change the lyrics depending, right, on the kids, whatever the need is.
You can take turns helping the children with the movements, help them move their hands and interact with them.
Okay, so let's see. I don't want to necessarily move their hands if they're not into it. So maybe it's a gentle guidance of arms to make the movements. All right, for dual language learners, is there anything that speaks to you for that?
Most of my families are Spanish speaking, so I'm able to also sing it in Spanish. Like,
okay. Sing the song in home language, if possible. Put a comment if possible.
Right.
All right, possible connections to other topics. So let's say Wheels on the Bus is a hit. Is there anything that we're like, well, if they can do Wheels on the Bus, let's do this? Any ideas? Perhaps similar songs?
Yes.
Might be a similar song. Moving their body.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands, or twinkle. Well, no, that's more like a
you're
nursery.
using your hands for that one, right? Twinkle, twinkle.
Twinkle, twinkle.
Any others that you use your hands while you're singing?
Would head, shoulders, knees, and toes be one?
Right.
Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. I'm gonna put Itsy Bitsy Spider. That's a classic. Okay, I think that's a good start on that. Did anybody else have anything you wanted to add?
No.
All right, I'm going to save this as an example. Save as. And it will get posted to Facebook. All right, I'm going to stop the share on that one. Now let's look at the competency statement. All right, so this first paragraph is all about how, whoops, maybe I should put paragraph 1 up here. I dislike that I have these lines on it when I try typing. They don't go well. All right, paragraph 1. I support communication in my classroom by, or maybe just I support communication in my classroom. And then bullet point from the book. And then supporting sentence. I have no idea why it just says G sentence there all of a sudden. It's not what I intended to do. Undo, try again. All right. And then paragraph 2. This part down before I use it. In addition, describe ways to promote language learning development among all children. Maybe I should leave that bit too. Okay, so that gets us our framework. So, flipping through these pages, I'm going to give you all a few minutes. Start flipping around and see if you can find a bullet point from the book in this chapter for your specific age group. That's a way you support communication in your classroom. And then let me know what page number so I can copy it off. And can you all see the CS2D screen? I didn't ask that. Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Great. So it looks like I have at least 4 people on with me. So if you all start looking, try to find a bullet point from the book for paragraph 1.
If I were to say regularly read aloud to their children on page 295.
Okay, let me pull up 295. All right, and what is your supporting sentence for that? Do you read to children daily?
Yes, we do that during story time, before nap time. That's usually that's when they're the most calm for my toddler room.
I read to children daily during story time before nap. Okay, so that's a supporting sentence. Does anybody else have a bullet point that we could use? We need 2 more.
Encourage infants to participate in telling a story. Like Mr. Brown can move, so can you.
What
That's
page,
on
Heather?
page 283.
283. And do you have a supporting sentence, Heather, of how you do that?
Encourage the children to copy or repeat the sounds that I make. I'll make it first and say, can you do that? And do it again.
Well done. All right. And the last bullet point, does anybody have one?
Would regularly talking with the children during play be one?
Sure. What page number is that?
That was on 279.
279. 279. Yep, I see it. Oops. All right. And what is your supporting sentence, ma'am?
I
How do you make that happen for your kids?
I lay down with them and talk to them because I work with young infants as well. I just describe what they're doing or what they're seeing with them.
Okay, so I wrote, I lay down at the baby's level and describe what they are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So that's our first paragraph. So for the second paragraph, it's very similar. We're going to do 4 of them. Copy, paste. And honestly, let's do 2 of those just for funsies. Because there's a lot of information to pull for dual language. All right, start hunting and see what we can find. We need 2 general bullet points and 2 dual language bullet points. If you all would you like me to just assign 2 people to look for regular ones and 2 people to look for dual language? Would that speed it up? Would you like that? Would that work?
Sure.
That works.
All right, so according to my list here, Heather and Myra, you 2 pick general ones, and Juliet and Jasmine, you 2 pick dual language ones. Find bullet points in dual language.
What page was the dual language again?
I think it started on 291. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And whenever one of you finds a good one, just shout it out and tell me which section it needs to go in.
This is Jasmine for the dual language.
All right, shoot, Miss Jasmine, what page?
293.
All right, which one?
Select books in which the illustrations closely match the text to help children discern word meanings.
Where am I? Oh, I see. No. That's the select books one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now for this one, if you'd like, you can either say how you support it in your classroom in the supporting sentence, or you could say why you think that's important. Either way.
Got you. Kind of like a word association. So, libro. Vamos a leer un libro. So we're going to read a book. And then I show them the book. And then I guess it'll have some illustrations in between about the storyline. And then just it's kind of like English Spanglish in our classroom because the majority is primarily Spanish. So I try my best to translate back and forth.
Okay, so when the pictures in the book are easy to understand with the text. It helps support comprehension or learning development, or is comprehension okay? Can I put that?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Or I could say understanding as well. Comprehension is not a word that we typically use. All right, thank you. Does anybody else find one?
Yeah, for the dual language,
Mm-hmm.
give children plenty of examples to help them understand word meanings.
And what page is that?
That's also 293.
I see it now. And what do you think we could do for a supporting statement for that?
So if it's like colors pointed out in a book, and also maybe like a bear or something that's also yellow, like yellow bear, yellow in a page. And also like something, just different things that are also the same category around the room. Like find all the yellow toys or something.
The color yellow on the page and connect it to other yellow things in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
This is Mayra. I put retell stories.
And what page is that on, Myra?
279.
All right, and what should we put for a supporting sentence for retell stories, do you think?
That kind of repeat the stories, or repeat this, the book several times, so that they can get familiar with either color, shapes, and start recognizing.
I pushed something weird 1 minute. Okay. Okay. Get familiar and recognize maybe story elements.
Right. So
patterns.
Patterns.
Because usually in the books, it's like a pattern of rhymes, and they'll start to catch on to the rhyming bit.
Yes.
All right, Heather, were you able to find one? Heather might have had to step away. I don't know. All right, I think Heather may have had to step away. I'm going to go ahead and pick one. And I'm going to pick on 279, take advantage of children's dramatic play scenarios. So I'm going to put when you join children's play, you can model new vocabulary or role playing. All right, so I'm going to pull these back because I don't want to confuse people about where you need to do it. All right, and that's it, y'all. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to save this as an example and also put that on Facebook. And I think I'll do it right now before I log off, so that'll keep me honest. I think I forgot last week for a while. Gaze is a cute baby.
I'm looking at the language and literacy learning experience sheet. Can I use like a puppet show to combine words into simple sentences as an activity?
So you are telling me that what's your objective and what age group?
Okay, so the objective would be combine words.
What age group?
Simple sentences. Mobile infants.
Okay, let me see if I can find that. Mobile infants.
I think it was like page 54 that I found that on.
Okay,
or 55.
Okay, so I'm seeing for mobile infants 8 to 18 months, imitate body language, enjoy being read to, point to or name familiar characters, participate in activities that require listening, turn pages in books, reach for and hold writing tools, make marks or scribbles on paper. And which was the one you said you found?
Oh, it was combine words into simple sentences.
I think it might be a different age group.
It was toddlers, sorry, 18 months to 36 months.
I'm looking.
Oh, okay, sorry, I was looking at toddlers, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm still trying to find the thing, even on toddlers. Let's see, where are you? Now, are you looking on the left side of the screen or on the right side?
On the left side, it's the first one.
The first one for 18 to 36 months, I'm saying is sing along with familiar songs. Maybe you're in a different section. Let me go up. Go up and look at the other section. One moment.
It's in communication and speaking.
Yep, I was in the wrong section. Yep, I see it now. Combine words into simple sentences. So yeah, if you were doing that is for toddlers, if you're doing that, and what was your idea for it?
Like a puppet show?
Tell me more. How would that work?
So your puppet can just say like, hi, I want to tell you about the zoo trip I had yesterday. And they can you just go from there. I went to the zoo with mommy and daddy. I saw, and then you just use your own creative spin on it, go from there.
Okay. And it would determine, because between 18 and 36 months, there's a lot of development that happens in speaking. If you have the younger side of it, you're not going to get that full sentence. You're just going to have a short little, like it says, milk all gone, or sit here or something like that. It's not going to be let me tell you about my trip.
Okay.
You have like the 2 to 3 year olds, so like the 24 to 36 months, you might be able to get some of that.
Maybe just like about your
Yeah, that might be down here, like the use 3 to 4 word sentences with a noun and a verb.
Okay.
So you could use puppets, but you need to modify your expectation.
Okay. I'll probably edit
like
it.
3 word sentence instead of a 5 word sentence.
Yeah. Okay. I'm probably gonna change it. Change all of
You
it.
can use puppets. Puppets are fine. You could say, if you had animal puppets, you could say, giraffe says, "Meh." Cow says, moo. And that would be a sentence.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody else have a question?
I may later in the week while I'm doing my work, but
okay. Feel free to email me. That's all I've got, y'all. So if you don't have any questions, don't want to stay on and CDA, then go enjoy your Saturday. Get prepped for football watching tomorrow or commercial watching or whatever it is for you.
Okay. Have a beautiful weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. That little tuft of hair on the back of her head is so cute. Bye-bye, baby.
Ready? There we go. Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Say bye-bye.
She's like, no. And that's fine.
Have a good weekend. Thank you.
All right. Let's stop recording.